In Uruguay, the World Front Coalition candidate lists voting intentions with more than 48%. The Palestinian government and resistance warns that Smotrich's plan to impose Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank ratifies the intention of the colonial plan. And in Spain, weather authorities warn of a new dana putting 8 communities on high alert. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. 12 days before Uruguay's presidential runoff, the candidate of the leftist coalition brought front list voting intention with more than 48%. According to data based on a new poll, broad front candidate Yamandu Orsi could obtain 48.5% of the votes, while the right-wing candidate Álvaro Delgado would reach 45.1%. According to the data, Orsi manages to gather support among voters of the ruling parties and from outside the two blocs, while Delgado does not gain the loyalty of all voters of the Republican coalition. The survey maintains Orsi as favorite to win the second round, although now the distance between the candidates is smaller than the one registered before the October elections. In Lima, Peru, more than 13,000 police officers summit. The Peruvian government plans to guarantee the security of the summit, which takes place this week in Lima. The presidents of the United States, Joe Biden, and China, Xi Jinping, are heading the meeting of the forum, which brings together the leaders of 21 economies that represent 60% of global GDP. The Interior Ministry reported that the security arrangements include facial recognition equipment, anti-drone systems, and a bomb disposal robot. Prior to the police deployment, Congress authorized the entry of 600 soldiers from the United States to support the government in security tasks. And Argentina vetoed this November 11th the United Nations resolution that recognizes the need to respect and promote the rights of indigenous peoples. Argentina, a country where there are 58 communities of indigenous peoples, according to its 2022 population census, it was the only of 168 countries to vote against a resolution that seeks to strengthen the rights of indigenous communities in areas such as justice, environment, and preservation of ancestral languages and traditions. The resolution, denied by the government of Javier Milei, establishes that indigenous peoples are entitled to the full enjoyment of the human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized in the United Nations Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights standards, like as the right to non-discrimination and self-determination. In Ecuador, authorities registered 15 dead and 14 injured during riots and clashes in Guayaquil prison, the country's largest. Citizens report that from the El Litoral Penitentiary, detonations were recorded since 3 a.m. local time. The National Service of Integral Attention to Adults Deprived of Liberty and Juvenile Offenders said that security forces acted immediately to take full control of the facilities and activate a large-scale search operation, in addition to initiating the corresponding investigations to clarify what happened. Authorities added that a contingent of military and police personnel was deployed to guarantee security and avoid further incidents. A week after Donald Trump's electoral victory in the U.S. presidential elections, hundreds of activists took to the streets in several cities across the country to reject the anti-immigrant narrative of President-elect, who promised massive deportations on the first day of his return to the White House. In New York City, thousands of people gathered in the vicinity of Trump Tower and walked through the streets and avenues showcasing their dissatisfaction with the deportation policy of the White House. In this context, in the city of Los Angeles, a crowd made up mainly of women of Mexican origin marched against the deportation of undocumented immigrants, arguing that if this new policy is implemented, more than 10 million people will be severely affected.
Now with the change of government, many legal problems are coming to us. but more to the undocumented people. They don't have the right to a retirement. There are not documents for them to retire, for there to be something beneficial. People who have been here for more than 15, 20, 25, 30, even 40 years, because we haven't had a legalization for almost 40 years.
We now have a short break coming up, but first we remember you can join us at TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Palestinian government condemned on Tuesday statements made by Israeli officials seeking to impose their plan on sovereignty over the West Bank. Palestinian Foreign Ministry labeled these statements as colonialist and racist, as they constitute an extension of the genocidal war of displacement against the Palestinian people. The Foreign Ministry further denounced such statements as a persistent disregard for international legitimacy, UN resolutions, and the international consensus reached on the two-state solution. For his part, the Israeli Minister of Finance, Bezalel Smotrich, said that Israel will forever take from the Palestinians the territories occupied by Jewish settlements in the West Bank. In Lebanon, a new attack by the Israeli occupation army resulted in the death of at least 14 people in the Akka region in the north of the country. Authorities report that the targets of the attacks were homes in the town of Ein Yaqub, 12 kilometers from the Syrian border, which is also an area where Israeli attacks are rare. Syrians and displaced Lebanese residents are reported to be among the dead and wounded, while rescue teams continue to search for people trapped under the rubble. The Lebanese Ministry of Public Health said 54 people have died in the last 24 hours, bringing the death toll to 3,243 since October 2023, including 201 children.
It's a miserable situation. People are stupefied as it's the first strike on the Acre region. They targeted the building without any prior notice. Usually they publish on social media evacuation orders. Unfortunately today they hit a building inhabited by more than 30 people, without evacuation order. It's a massacre.
And in Palestine, at least 10 people were killed by an Israeli occupation army bombardment on a humanitarian area in the Gaza Strip. The new attack took place on the night of November 11th when drones launched missiles at people sitting in a field coffee located in Al-Mawasi, an area in southern Gaza designated as safe by Israeli forces. Paramedics and civilians transferred several wounded to Nasser Hospital in Han Yunis. On the other hand, Wafa news agency reported that amid heavy shelling, Israeli forces on Tuesday surrounded a school that houses 130 families in the town of Beit Hanun. Since last October 7, 2023, 43,603 people have been killed as a result of Israel's genocidal offensive against the Gaza Strip. In other news, the United Nations approved the Russian resolution to combat glorification of Nazism. The vote was supported by 116 countries, while 54 countries voted against, including Germany, Canada, France, Japan, the United Kingdom, Ukraine, and the United States. Meanwhile, 11 countries abstained. This resolution aims to reject the glorification of totalitarian regimes, particularly the Nazi regime, and the denial of its crimes, including the Holocaust. It also seeks to condemn the rehabilitation of figures and symbols associated with Nazism, as well as the justification of its crimes, calling on countries to avoid historical distortions, especially in relation to war crimes committed during the Second World War. And the Russian army neutralized at least 2,000 Ukrainian fighters and mercenaries within the framework of the special military operation to denazify Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that troops advanced on several fronts, liberating airfields and taking control of Ukrainian military and industrial power plants. In last day's offensives, Russian units inflicted damage to Ukrainian troops and groups of servicemen who occupied the Russian territory of Donetsk. Russian troops also neutralized multiple warehouses where the Ukrainian forces were storing military arsenals and ammunition. The Kremlin highlighted the precision levels of the operation and leaving considerable casualties to the Kiev regime, with no reported civilian casualties or damage to essential infrastructure or housing. Meanwhile, the government of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea ratified the Strategic Partnership Treaty with Russia. In a statement released by local media, it was noted that the Strategic Partnership Treaty with Russia was signed on November 11, 2024, by decree of the President for State Affairs of the People's Republic in Pyongyang on June 19, 2024. In this regard, the treaty contains provisions on mutual defense in case of armed attack by one or several states. The two countries also signed agreements related to the health sector. China showcases its military air power during the 15th International Aviation and Space Exhibition. The event takes place in Zhuhai, Guangdong Province. China aims to showcase its technological breakthroughs in the sector. The air show takes place one day after the 75th anniversary of the People's Liberation Army Air Force. This is the first time it will be held after the restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Throughout the 6-day exhibition, the most advanced military aircraft and defense systems, including the new J-35A stealth fighter, will be on display.
This year's air show is probably the most grand one since the pandemic. The entire flight performance, especially the J-10C's performance, is much more complex in terms of aerobatics than before.
I had only seen this on live stream before, and this is my first time watching it in person. The impact of watching it on the scene is totally different from watching it on TV or in short videos. I deeply felt the strength of our country, very impressed.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Spain, the state meteorological agency EMET warned of the entry of a new isolated depression at high levels, mainly on the east and south coast of the country. The world entity issued a warning of persistent torrential rainfalls in some areas of Valencia, Baleares, and Catalonia starting on Tuesday. In addition, it reported flash floods in Andalusia. 8 communities have kept on alert for the new storm, while authorities recommend citizens to check road access before driving, since some regions are closed as a preventive measure. In this regard, military troops have been deployed in Valencia alongside the Navy crew of the Galicia ship to continue rescuing, cleaning up, and making recovery efforts in the already affected areas. And amid alerts, the Directorate General of Civil Protection and Emergencies activated a special emergency plan in the cities of Barcelona and Tarragona due to heavy rains, which could reach up to 40 liters in 30 minutes. Meanwhile, the Emergency Service of the General Council of Catalonia urges to take the necessary precautions. For its part, the City Council of Chiva in Valencia issued a notice of suspension of classes and sports activities until further notice due to the rain alert. The measure also includes the suspension of all activities in social centers, and citizens are advised not to move from the shelter areas. The municipality of Chiva was one of the hardest hit by the Dana. And in Cuba, the government remains vigilant after the 6.6 and 6.7 earthquakes that shook the southern coast of the island and other Caribbean nations on November 10th. Cuban authorities reported no fatality, but at least 7 people were injured, as well as damage to houses and streets. Likewise, the National Seismological Service said that about 885 aftershocks and more than 46 reports of perceptible tremors were registered in the province of Granma. So far, seismic activity continues to be monitored to identify any of the similar phenomena. In Santiago de Cuba province, work and school activities were resumed as normal after the authorities confirmed safety conditions. And the Jamaica Meteorological Service is on alert Tuesday for a tropical wave, which due to conditions in the Caribbean Sea could develop into a tropical cyclone. Tropical wave is slow-moving and is influencing Hispaniola, so it could be in Jamaica by Tuesday or Wednesday. According to the entity, the projections are for cloudy conditions with periods of showers and thunderstorms, which could be strong at times to affect especially the south and northwest of the country through Wednesday night. The tropical wave could merge with a broad area of low pressure across the southwestern Caribbean Sea, giving it a 50% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 7 days. And in Colombia, the Disaster Risk Management Unit sent the first 10,000 food kits to the Department of Choco, which was recently hit by heavy rains and severe flooding. The entity activated operational tasks including the Army, Police, Navy, Aerospace Forces, Civil Defense, firefighters, and Red Cross to assist the emergency in that territory. Furthermore, the government, with resources from the Collective Investment Fund, allocated some $625,000 to recover from the damages caused by the rainy season in the communities of Choco. According to official data, 25 of 31 municipalities in this department have suffered some type of damage, and at present more than 30,000 families have been affected. And Colombian authorities reported this November 11th that the San Jose Mulatos volcano erupted, located in the department of Antioquia in the northwest of the country. The San Jose Mulatos volcano emitted a flare of fire at approximately 1700 hours local time, which triggered a cloud of smoke in the area. Technical Director of the Colombian Geological Service, John Macario, reported that these volcanoes have very small and restricted eruptions. Secretary General of San Pedro de Uraba, Alexander Gonzalez, reported that the expulsion of volcanic material fell towards the sides of the municipalities of Necoclí. The Governor of Antioquia, Andres Julian Rendon, indicated that the Department of Risk Management was already aware of the emergency. And on November 11th, world leaders and parties gathered in Baku, Azerbaijan for the 29th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, with the aim of reaching crucial climate agreements. According to the organizing committee, delegations attending COP29 will work to achieve inclusive and sustainable outcomes. From November 11th to the 22nd, 2024, COP29 will seek to push forward agreements among countries to limit global temperature rise to less than 1.5 degrees and boost sustainable societies and economies. The central event of the conference will be the Global Summit for Climate Action, scheduled for November 12th to the 13th. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.